What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. I haven't put many videos up in the last little while because I've been working on my truck a bunch here. Did some bigger tires on it, put some 33s on it, and I refinished the rims so they look much better. Not perfect, but a lot better. Anyways, it's been a lot of work on that thing, and it's continuing again today because I bought a rough country steering stabilizer. It was the only steering stabilizer setup I could really find for this thing. Not that it steers bad, it's a little, wanders a little and the steering's a little loose. The front end of the truck's actually tight, like the pitman arm, the idler arm, everything's nice and tight. These trucks seem to have like just loose gearboxes, like a little play in the steering box, or a little play in the steering box, which is common. It's an old truck. So hopefully this tightens it up a little bit. It should help with bump steer as well, so when you hit a bunch of bumps, it won't make the steering wheel fly everywhere. So interestingly enough, the instructions say 99 and up GM, which is not what we got here. But anyways, we'll get under the truck, see what it's going to take to install. It seems like a pretty easy install. The only thing I'm worried about is I did watch like another couple of videos, and it seems like some people, you have to remove the skid plate to mount one of these brackets. This one here, I believe. And some people said you can't mount the skid plate back up after this bracket's installed, which is not happening. I'm going to make that skid plate mount up somehow, again, whether I have to notch it or something. But we'll see what this all entails. It's supposed to be a pretty easy install other than that. But first things first, I'm going to powder coat these brackets black because, I don't know, I'm a weirdo and I can't stand something like that under my truck. Just looks silly to me. So let's get these blasted and powder coated, and then we'll go on with the install and see how that goes. All right, so we got these brackets sandblasted, plugged the holes in this one because it was a pretty tight fit with the U-bolts that go in there. These holes I didn't plug because they're just bolts that go through and there's a lot of slop, it seems. So I think it'd be okay to get some powder in there. Wouldn't be a bad thing. And every time I do a different color powder, I always shoot a piece of flat bar with it. All the different blacks I've tried, I always make a note, so it's an easy comparison if you want to do something. You know what it looks like. Today I'm trying a different one. Midnight Satin Black, 50% gloss. Sure, we'll see what that looks like. So yeah, I got the powder gun ready, got the powder in there. I got a little fan that pulls the powder out, and a filter, a little furnace filter that kind of catches some of it. A little bit still blows in my grass, so I put that down. I built this little pole for doing powder. I guess not the perfect thing, but works good. I have it set so my electrode from the powder coating machine goes here. All these spindles are all linked together, so as soon as you press the pedal, doesn't matter which one you're shooting, they're all getting that charge from the powder coating machine. All of these spin as well, so easy to get all the sides of the parts. So let me fire this up and we'll get some powder on here. All right, so here we are out of the oven. Turned out really good, man. Really good. So it'll look a lot better, and it should last a lot longer before it turns to complete rust. So this looked good too. There's one spot that I didn't like. You see close to the holes with the plugs. You don't totally get the powder in there. My mistake, but I believe this bracket's on the back side like this anyway, so you're not really going to see it. That's fine. Well, you don't see any of this. It's under the truck, but you know, I just want it to last a little and not turn into rust. So now that we've spent more time powder coating two brackets than it's going to take to install the entire kit, I guess we'll start installing the kit. All right, so I've already been working on this a little bit, but it's very hard to film under here. There's not much room, so I started a bit. So first thing I did, remove the skid plate, no problem. Bear with me here. Second thing I did is, let me see if I can zoom out a bit here. Install this first bracket. So this is this one here is a pre-existing hole for the skid plate. It's threaded into the subframe. I see a lot of guys with Tahoes and stuff have to drill this hole, or they're not threading. They got to get a nut in behind. But on this truck, it was threaded, so it actually uses the factory skid plate bolt, which I believe is going to have to get removed after because the skid plate's going to sit over this, and I'm most likely going to have to space out the other skid plate mount, but we'll see when we get there. Anyways, put that in just to kind of hold it for now. I'll remove it after. This bolt went in pretty easy. The nuts up in here, so you have to squeeze your hand, and back there's a little spot you can get at the nut. I then installed the stabilizer loosely. It doesn't come with any instructions on how to stack the bushings or anything. It says refer to instructions on bag, and there's no instructions, so I just did it how it logically makes sense to me, and I used the pictures on their website. Now this is the bracket for the other end of the steering stabilizer. I got it fully extended out, so if I flip it here, you'll see it's just U-bolted to your steering bar here, so it's loose now. I'm actually not really sure where to place it. I'm going to play with it a bit. I think I'm going to put the steering stabilizer in it, put the bushings, and move the steering back and forth to make sure it doesn't bind anywhere, because there has to be enough throw in this to go both ways. So this bracket might have to slide here so the stroke of the shock is in a bit, so it has enough room to throw the other way. So I think if I just max it out all the way here, it won't actually have enough throw in the shock piston to turn all the way to the right. So the instructions do not make that clear at all, really. They don't really tell you where to place it. So give me a minute here. I'm going to get this this bushing end in here. I'm just going to eyeball drywall it, and let's say, I don't know, we'll put it here, and we'll move the steering around, and we'll see if it's good to go.
A little longer than a few minutes later.
Okay, so we got her all in, other than the skid plate. I haven't tried that yet, but I just figured I'd give you guys some advice here. It's kind of weird that they don't even have it in the instructions, but let me try to show you here. So don't mind my power steering leak, which now has shown up right now. Nice. But this shock only has so much throw, like so much length. So what I did was, before I mounted it, I pulled this shock piston all the way out, and I measured from the body here to the collar here. So that measurement was about 8 1/4 or something. So what I did was, what I wanted to see, when I turn the truck all the way to the passenger side, which is going to extend this shock, I want to make sure that I'm not at that 8 1/4 length, because if I am, the shock is maxed out, and either it's going to inhibit the truck from steering, or it's going to wreck the shock, obviously, because you're trying to pull the shock out past its extended limit. So when I first mounted this bracket, I had a little more to the right here. I turned the truck to the right, I measured it, and I was at my max. I had the shock maxed out, and the instructions don't say anything about checking this length. It says check for interference, but that's not really worded properly, I don't think. So when you get your shock, measure the total length when it's fully extended from here to here, or here to the end, whatever you want, and just make sure that when you turn the truck to the passenger side, you're within that limit, like you're under it. So for me, like I said, from here to here was 8 1/4. With my truck all the way to the passenger side, it's now 7 3/4 something. So, you know, I'm within a ½ inch of the full length of the shock, and when I go all the way to the driver's side, there was like 1 inch left or something. So if I wanted to be picky, I can split the difference and move the bracket back, you know, ½ inch or whatever, but we're not going to do that. But anyways, just something to check for. I feel like they should have mentioned that in the instructions, and they didn't. But yeah, anyways, let's try to get this skid plate on and see why my power steering's now leaking everywhere. Nice. Okay, so there it is, skid plate's on. I'm not too thrilled with this, but kind of no way around it. I just ended up using see the washers there as a spacer. See that? Maybe I'll make a flat bar chunk or something at a later date to make it a little nicer, but realistically, I'm never gonna use that skid plate anyways, because this thing ain't going off-road. Sorry, not happening. So yeah, that's it. It didn't go too bad. The rough country has some pretty terrible instructions. Not very good. Kind of leave it all up to you to figure out. Wow, not really, but they're not the greatest. So yeah, that's on. Well, I guess about to say goodbye, but I guess we'll go drive it and see how it is. It's kind of part of the video, eh? I'm sure I've only accelerated my power steering leak now and made that worse by putting more stress on the system with this steering stabilizer, but it's always something else, eh? It's always something, so we'll get that fixed too. Okay, so it's a really gross day out, but I can tell right off the bat, like, the steering is a lot tighter. I don't know if it's going to help with like how it wanders around on the highway a bit, but it does feel a lot tighter. Feels really, really good. Take it down the highway and see if you notice any difference. Like I said, the main reason for this is bump steer and stuff, especially when you start doing bigger tires. Like I put on this, I did 33s. You really notice bump steer, right? Like you go over a set of train tracks or something, it wants to throw the steering wheel all over the place. This will really help with that, and that's kind of the main purpose in my eyes for it. But it just driving around the streets here, it does actually feel a decent amount tighter. So let's see what happens on the highway. Okay, so it actually does feel a little better on the highway. Like the main reason why I was doing it, like I said, was the bump steer, but my truck wanders a lot on the highway. It's not even like a pull, it just kind of wanders, and that's typical in these OBS trucks. They just move a little bit. And it seemed to help a little bit. It didn't like drastically change it. It's not any major crazy difference here, but it did help a little bit. So yeah, I think like for the cost of this kit, it was like under $100 Canadian, which is like $3 American. For the cost of the kit, it's pretty cheap. Like I don't know, I think it's worth it. Like I said, the install's a little not that difficult, but the instructions are kind of garbage, but hopefully the little tips I gave you helps you. But yeah, I think it's worth it. $100, I'm into it. I'm good for it. So stay tuned, there'll be more videos. I don't know if you guys like the truck stuff much. I don't put a lot of the truck stuff up, but if you do, let me know. I'll put more up. Probably have another video now figuring out whatever's going on with my power steering leak. I think it's a line at the back of the pump or something. I don't know. I'm sure it'll leak much worse now that I have this added stress on the system. So, but anyway, stay tuned, guys, for more, and leave a comment. Let me know what you think, and have a good day. Hey, subscribe to the channel.